good morning, everybody. Hey, thank you for your great introduction, by the way. I entirely appreciate it. So, let's then just begin with the presentation. Today, for everybody, thank you for coming. We're gonna record the presentation and our webinar today. We're gonna dedicate our time for to present fixed assets in Business Central connected to NAV, which is currently the latest version of our BRP NAV connected and having connections with Business Central, which you could have on premises or on the cloud. This is well, Business Central is now the new um, is a new release of Microsoft in terms of NAV is going to be replaced by Business Central. But anyway, don't worry. What you're going to be seeing anyway, NAV still for those of you who have still NAV. And well, we're gonna work today with assets, like I said, and we're going to be presenting the functionality, right? We're gonna have, of course, a presentation that I can also share with anybody who asks for it, for you to learn specifically if you want to have it on site or if you want to correct something that you already have, you want to learn more, you can reach us later, and we're going to have, after our presentation, as usual, a session of questions and answers. So expect to have a good learning today, and expect to also have a great introduction in terms of what can NAV offer. So let's then just begin. Let's jump into our presentation today. We're going to check the first of all, in our agenda, we'll be checking the functionality, just currently with the Business Central technology, right? In conjunction with SQL, and also working in the cloud with Azure when necessary. It's just a service that that can be provided by Microsoft to handle your databases if required. If you want to work in the cloud, which is something that is being currently the top of the art implementation, let's say, so you don't require to have servers or tech people working for you that could handle, and which actually, currently can actually just decrease. You can decrease now your expenses, and you can have Microsoft or in the cloud providers to help you with your maintenance of your environment. In a general way, now not only working with the technology, but with specifically the functionality we're going to be checking today. Well, in a general way, it's easy. We need to have just fixed assets in our company. We have the buildings, the cars, we have everything, even services or intangible. Sometimes it could be considered as a fixed assets, and we should actually just register all the transactions that we perform. So once we have our list of fixed assets, we do different transactions. We are going to see how to create them in the Business Central interface. We're going to see it for the first time. We also need to understand how do we operate with fixed assets. In terms of transactions, we need to purchase, we need to depreciate assets, we need to make corrections and reclassifications, and by the end, last but not least, of course, we have reports. What do we do with any Business Central is currently somehow what we've been doing with NAV, but now it has been just released within Business Central, our new technology, so you can just actually work with it. We're going to automate the process of depreciating. We're going to automate the process now of how to work with those depreciations, which are our expenses, and on a year basis, being able to close a year, which is going to allow us to then also deduct the book value of every asset, right? Now, basically that's the idea. It's quite easy to see But in depth, we are going to have a lot of functionality behind all of this, right? As an introduction, what do we do with fixed assets? Well, NAV Business Central provides an overview. We're going to provide an overview of your fixed asset to ensure correct periodic depreciation. It also enables you to keep track of your maintenance costs if you have machinery specifically. Manage insurance policies whenever you want to have them for any of your assets, and we're going to actually review the charges or expenses per asset. Post-fixed asset transactions, if you want to write off, decrease, increase the value, and it depends, right, on your expenses, or if you're suddenly, I don't know, buildings might increase the value in time, right? So there are plenty of possibilities here. So at the end, we generate various reports and statistics, so you can have in a glimpse all the general review and general information of what is going on with your assets, the general picture, right? Second, to keep track of your fixed asset depreciation as well as other financial transactions related to fixed assets, you set up one or more depreciation books for each fixed asset in your company. So what it means, we're going to be making your accounting for your assets. That's done automatically. For those of you who haven't actually worked with a Business Central NAV before, this is an automated process. So once you actually just create an asset, we specify how you do. We have different methodologies to depreciate periodically an asset. So you can just indicate that to NAV, and NAV is going to be doing it for you periodically, right? Every month, every 2 weeks, it depends of how you actually would like to depreciate. And you can now forget about all those complicated calculations that you do, because they will be done in Business Central. Then, for each asset, you can record maintenance costs if you need them as well, and the next service date as well, which are expenses. Keeping track of maintenance expenses can be important for budgeting purposes, specifically because you need to control those, and for making decisions about whether to replace a fixed asset. So in other words, we have generated reports keeping track of your expenses, and specifically we need to input per asset what would be those expenses like maintenance or insurance. In a general way, those are the most to use for fixed assets, but we can attach even more expenses like spare parts or something like that, you know. So you can review the expenses that you have per asset, and at the end, if you whenever want to replace a fixed asset, we could actually just generate the transactions for you. Last, before you can begin to manage fixed assets, you must set up default values, fixed asset accounting, post groups, allocations, keys, journals, and processing types. All right, we're going to have a brief review of all of this in this presentation. So the first thing to understand is just as easy as let's go into the system. Yes, let's just start with this. Let's begin working and let's review what does this is going to be offering. Okay. Let me then just come back to and open for us the interface, the client for Business Central. This is NAV connected to Dynamics 365 Business Central, right? So this is actually Business Central, but we currently see the NAV client, what used to be the NAV client, but now actually this is Business Central. What we see is the main screen for the president as a small business. He immediately, when he opens NAV, he can actually just see his cash flow as an example. He can see different KPIs for different activities that he wants to monitor, like the sales operations, purchases that are actually just created for that moment or real time, by the way, and receivables, payables, indicators that we can see here as an example, the purchase documents due today, right? So that's what we do whenever we implement NAV for you. We give you the information that you require, just tell us what you need, and when you open NAV, you actually just start working. You don't have to ask for these complicated reports anymore. You can see actually I'm presenting this cash flow is a quite complicated report to analyze. So here we can see how we operate with totals, receivables in blue, and payables in red, right? And your liquid funds, by the way. But at the moment, we just can see the total cash flows for different periods. And you can see that, well, in this example, at least in purple, you have a quite horizontal above zero purple line, which is, in other words, is good. And this is your actual cash flow for the company, and it's not variating. So this is an example, right? So we have also sales performances. We have by period, and so we can generate this for you, right? This is the president information. And well, in this case, what I actually just need to do is just go directly into our financial. After this brief introduction, we have plenty of options above for the specific windows. In the center, this is our work area where we will be actually presenting the functionality. How do we work? It's in the center. And in the left menus, we have this, let's say, Outlook menus. It looks more or less like Outlook and other Microsoft products, right? Where we have menus in the left. We have plenty of options above, like Excel or Word. And well, NAV is just somehow the same. It's quite friendly for the user, right? So once again, in this case, in all these options that we can configure for you, I have just placed fixed assets. Fixed assets, where we have just the specific options that I would need for me that I request, and I can, this is standard, but I can request to my consultants, for instance, in this case, hey, I want a button where I can see all my fixed assets, like in this example, right? So here you can see that I have some cars, all right, actually, well, some furnitures, and a computer as an example, right? Well, this is just a very short list of assets that I have for this company. And I have a lot of buttons like calculate depreciation, give me statistics, and so on. So if I want to create an asset for the first time, I would need to actually just to see these options. And I have buttons that help me to do so. Like here, I can see new, edit, or delete, right? At this point, I cannot delete, and I don't want to delete anything, correct? So just showing the possibilities of what we have here. So let me just go and, well, just a little bit of navigation. I have also a departments button where I can see all the modules that I have within NAV, right? Just for you to know, financial management, sales and marketing, purchasing, warehousing, manufacturing, and so on. Just a brief review of the general navigation. In this case, anyway, I have the financial management module where I have all of these sub modules where I actually are going to be checking, and I'm going to check now the fixed asset module. In the fixed asset module, I just can create the list of fixed assets, insurance. I have different tasks. I need to create journals, right? Where I can just register transactions for my assets, right? And I have a lot of reports and analysis. I have a history if I want to review what has been going through the activities of my assets, right? And well, these are more or less the operations that I have. At this point, I'm going to just open a fixed asset, and I'm going to take a look at, for instance, the Mercedes that I have. This is a car. Let me show you a brief introduction of this asset. What do we have in NAV whenever we create an asset is I have this car in this example, and I have a classification of the cars of my assets. In this case, I have different type of assets such as car, machinery, and telephone. Okay, this is important for me because I'm going to need to classify it whenever I have them in NAV, right? And I could have the creation of your serial number or your plate, a description, you know, and responsible if you have, you know, just delivered the asset for somebody internally in your company, right? Those are just general transactions. I mean, information, general information for my asset. Now, it's very important, of course, to have the book value and the depreciation and the history of my asset, right? So in this case, I have the book value, which is $24,000, right? So this car was purchased at some point in the year 2020. I started to depreciate these assets in January the 1st, and I have purchased this asset, and I have just purchased it for this amount. So after this, I can just register any type of transaction. What type of transactions I can generate? Well, let's start from the beginning. I just would need to register the following. Once we create your assets, we would generate this. I can have, and I have here the book value, the acquisition cost, which was $30,000, right? I have an invoice, a purchase invoice as an example. This is history, right? So after that, I have here my depreciations. By the way, the depreciations, as you can see, all of them are equally calculated due the internal policy that you could have if you wanted to see it this way, that every month should depreciate the exact number of days, which would be, let's say, the standard approach. So as you can see here, if you don't only see the quantities, you can see the amounts. I mean, you can see the number of depreciation days, which is 30, 30, 30 as a standard for the month. But we can generate the depreciation that you actually require. So this is just an example, which is the standard. Okay. As an example of not only that, we could have insurance for your asset, like in this example. Okay. The total amount insurance for your company is 30,000. All right. So you're gonna have those insurances created for you. The specific transaction that applies, and the acquisition cost in this case for 30,000. The value or the book value of this asset, it's actually just generate, and we generate an insurance for the total value of it, which then later could be different because I'm going to be depreciating that value. So we will need to take that into consideration when we apply such expenses. And I also could generate, of course, maintenance, and I could just have the specific transactions, the service dates for this asset as an example, and the agent in this case, right? So the whole idea is that we generate this type of transactions, general type of transactions that you require in the beginning, which are your purchasing costs, the expenses that you incur, and the automatic depreciation that we're going to check that in a moment. So within this basic introduction, also we could have pictures if you require them, how you can import them from your own computer and server. Attachments as well. Let's say that you want to save the original purchase invoice just to have it in the record, so you can just attach it. And well, that's more or less the way we see an asset on a daily basis here in NAV. All our assets could or could not have all of this information. It depends. Maybe not all of them have the serial number, but nevertheless, we have mandatory transactions that we are going to see. We need to register whenever to create an asset, and we're going to see it now. So, oh, by the way, we could have very important. We could budget our assets whenever we need them. All right. This is not a budgeting webinar. We're going to have more if you need it, but yes, the answer is that you sometimes need to budget those type of operations whenever you require. Okay, I'm going to create now an asset for the first time, and I'm going to have let's create a car. All right. So in this case, I'm going to purchase a car, an Opel car, just as an example. And I have created, this is a fixed asset card, which is completely blank. All right, doesn't have information yet. I'm creating it for the first time. And let's see what will be the mandatory information. By the way, in NAV, you have these with asterisks, which are mandatory for you. Okay. Whenever you have this type of fields, and you can tell me that for me, if you want to, as an accountant, have specific information, you can ask your consultants what type of information would be mandatory for you, so we can just generate this for you. All right. So the mandatory information is there. Without it, I cannot just create this asset. Now, let's come back to the general asset creation for my car. I would need to actually just classify it for financial, intangible, or tangible. Why do we have this classification? Well, for report purposes, of course, where you can generate all of this information will be helping me to generate information for further reports that I will show you at the end of the presentation. So a car in this example is just tangible. These are the best practices for the accounting policies. So I just generate financial assets such as licenses for software, for your business central license that you pay maintenance. You can generate that as an asset. Intangible as well, or tangible, financial, such as the specific insurances that you might have that could be part of your car as well. Intangible software or some other expenditures such as that. and tangibles, of course, like my car that I'm creating now. So these are just general reviews of how to group them, right? But we could just generate the grouping for you. So in this case, we also classify not only on the accounting side, but on a logic criteria for you, for your company, how you want to classify your assets. In this case, I have car, machinery, and telephone, all right? I could nevertheless add furniture, I could add office equipment, and so on, that anything that you want to consider, because we, of course, are actually generating behind the scene NAV is generating, or whenever you create a transaction, your accounting process behind the scene, all right? So we need to specify what type of a asset we are generating. So we, in this example, if I select car, I am actually going to generate the transactions with the specific GL accounts that I created or the accountant creates for us on the chart of accounts specifically for the car. So we keep the order for the accounting people. So you don't have to worry anymore about it. And of course, we could have a location, all right? So you might actually want to have an organization of where you are in the company, in the office 1, 2, or 3, or the warehouses, or whatever you want. We create a list of the locations so we can generate reports for you of where you have placed your assets. So in this case, well, let's see that the location code for me is in relation to where is the responsible. Okay, let's say that normally a car would be purchased for, let's say, an accountant internally in my company, a luxury car, let's say, right? So I'm going to just generate more information like the plate as my serial number. This could be budgeted if I want it. And I have a responsible employee. Well, I have Noé. Noé is responsible for this car. I'm delivering this car for him. I could have his last name, a job title, and I could have plenty of information of the responsible people, all right? So why do we have with this? Once again, reports. So I can generate reports of who is responsible within my company. Are they my employees? The address, the specific personal information of this person, okay, who will be responsible. So I'm just generating general information for my asset, right? I could as well import a picture as an example. And by the way, not only generating the general information, but I could, for instance, add what we call internally in NAV a dimension. A dimension is just also financial information, but that also will be helping me to classify the specific sub-classification of a criteria. Let me explain what a dimension is. I could generate transactions for my car accounts, acquisition cost, and specifically depreciation. So I have GL accounts for depreciation, and I want to depreciate my asset, and I want that expenses are registered in my depreciation accounts in my P&L. But as well, I would like to dedicate my register. The system could actually just subdivide that information to be dedicated to one department, all right, which is the administration, all right? So you, at this point, don't have to do anything else. You just keep your depreciation account, but now we add some more information to the transaction. This is the administration department, right? Why? Because Noé actually is in that department company. And now what I'm saying here is that I have more information that will be posted to my transaction. So depreciation methods. I have this a constant percentage per month. Declining balance, 1 or 2 could be just dedicated to specify what type of progressive or a value of depreciation on a periodic basis we could generate. Then we have DVN, DV1, DV2, that could be helping just to as well have a specific custom depreciation with or and user defined, by the way, custom depreciation that you, if you need to have specifically one specific formula. Like, let's say I would generate a specific machinery that could work normally for a specific time, let's say 1 year, but after that year the book value or the depreciation should be increased. So I will generate on a larger rate. Let's say that will be more dedicated to machinery, where the life cycle of some assets are actually variable and not constant. All right. And manual, well, you will decide how you want to depreciate, but that depends on the account. And we have those methods: constant or straight line. This is the standard or most common, and we can generate the type of depreciation that you need. For me,
point at this point, I'm just working with the depreciations, and I need to, of course, input the starting depreciation date. For me, I need to say, okay, I'm going to start depreciating on the first day, well, on this month, actually. This is my depreciation. And how many years, what is the useful life of this asset, all right, in terms of years? At this point, a car normally would be depreciating among 5 to 10 years, all right? So because I have just input the mandatory information, NAB or Business Central is telling me you are ready to acquire the fixed asset. In other words, we can purchase it now. What do we do? This, when I just input this information, this is not yet generating my account payable, or I'm not generating the expense while I'm not purchasing it yet. Why? Because later I'm going to be generating a specific transaction where I'm going to have taxes. I'm going to have the purchase information. I'm going to have the vendor if when it's required. If I have some vendors that is actually selling me this, or maybe not, all right? It depends. But with the general information, I'm saying that specifically, when am I going to be starting depreciating, and with the number of depreciation years, which is in this example 5, then I can generate what NAV is going to be doing is helping me calculating the monthly depreciation. And for me, if I'm an accountant, I need to learn, okay, the first option to depreciate is 30 days per month. So I will be depreciating equally, and NAV is going to be adjusting the number of depreciation, the number of days to depreciate, as long as I purchase either on depreciation starting date is either on the first date or the last date of the month. I could be depreciating, of course, if you think about it, I will be then depreciating 30. Some other months have 31 days, some other one month has 28 days every 4 years, and so on. So in order to avoid discrepancies when I depreciate, NAV understands I'm going to be starting to depreciate on the beginning of the month, on the first day. If the user is telling me that, that means that I want to use 30 days per month. But if I start depreciating that on other days, well, we indicate to Business Central, well, what I'm doing is just specifying that I will be very, very picky with the number of days to depreciate, okay? Because I'm actually starting on the day number 10, which is somehow atypical, specifically when we talk about accounting processes. With that said, what I need to do is just to acquire the cost, the fixed asset. That's part of our functionality now. For me, in order to work with that, once I have created an asset in our presentation, coming back, I have I have prepared a presentation, so you can have it later. You can request that to me or to Optimus, because I have created this manual where you can actually just see what I'm explaining at this point. In order to create an asset, we have in our PowerPoint presentation just specifically the windows and the information that I have just shown. So you can, for instance, enter the descriptions, the serial numbers, and whatever, right? So what I'm doing in the webinar is just showing you with a real example, and with me that I'm a consultant, all the information that you will be requiring, right? Now, so you can see it and learning so easily, right? So I'm going to come back to our asset now. I have the list of assets that I have created. And before continuing, before doing anything with the purchasing activities and so on, I'm going to need to tell you how do we operate on a general a company level when we talk about finances. Remember, We are going to now work with a subledger for your fixed assets, and we also work with the chart of accounts. Then, in order to properly work with that in our fixed asset, in our fixed asset configuration, we generate what we call the depreciation books for you. So we have one general company book where we are going to have the record of all your transactions for your assets. But why not if we want to actually custom, I'm just gonna call it like that. We have a second depreciation book for our same company where we actually just, I don't know, let's just try a custom depreciation way, but that is not going to be connected to my GL accounts, all right? So for me, just to have statistics and comparisons for my assets, so I could generate the normal company book where I'm going to be connecting to my GL accounts, and I'm going to be generating expenditures when it comes to depreciation and expenditures that will be connected to accounts payable or vendors, the real deal. But I also could generate, if you want, depreciation books that would be for me to actually, why not having a test of different depreciations, specifically if the accountant who for the first time comes to NAB wants to see why not do we operate with different variables when it comes to depreciation. It could be good for me and the company. Why? Let's try to test them before, and let's try to operate them at last. Whenever we decide, I can just work with different depreciation books, connected or not connected to my GL account. We can do that for you, okay? So you can test them, that's what I'm saying. So whenever we actually just work with that, also we connect, just let me just give you this brief example. I have the posting groups, okay? Posting groups help me to connect to finance any transaction coming from my fixed asset subledger. So I have the cars, all right? And you know that I have created a asset that is actually a car. So the acquisition cost will be then posted to one account. 1320 part of my asset classification increases during the year. So we have accumulated depreciation account, acquisition cost account, and so on. Okay, gain and disposal for my P&L, maintenance expenses. I need to dedicate and I need to create all the different accounts that I actually going to be using so NAB can use them, and very easily in advance when we actually implement Business Central. What do we do then? Well, we just create specific accounts dedicated for our operations. In my example, I'm going to be working with the vehicles subclassification, account 1300, where I have the vehicles increases during the year, decreases during the year, and accumulated depreciation. So in a logic criteria, all my GL accounts for my vehicles are in one single section, all right? So that's great for me. I need to have this type of order whenever I implement NAV so I can easily see this information, all right? So that's what we do. We can generate your depreciation books, and we just generate your accounting process. So once I have that, I'm coming now to my Opel a fixed asset card, as you can see it here. Like I said, you can add pictures if you want to have more information, and you can generate, just for you to know, multiple assets. You don't have to work this manually like I'm doing at this point, all right? I'm just showing you the different fields. But what we actually do whenever we come with an asset creation, for instance, we purchased 20 chairs. You don't have to create them one by one. You can use the copy function. It's there and it's super easy to use, okay? So at this point, I have my card created and I need to acquire it, all right? Then we have two ways of doing this. We just generate a regular purchase order within NAV. Also, we have automated many processes now with Business Central. And this comes from the regular NAV, and we have just worked with that also here in Business Central, where we just have different wizards to help you with transactions. In this case, I have an acquiring wizard that helps me to do so. So when you acquire a fixed asset, you can post a transaction to a GL account, a vendor, or bank account. Let's see how it works, just as an example. So I'm going to click on next. you need to tell and specify to NAB, okay, well, you have your asset created, let's purchase it. What is the acquisition cost, including VAT, of course, or including your taxes? That's the way you're going to be having the actual cost of that item from your invoice, all right? So I don't know, I'm just going to say that this is $10,000, all right? So for me, that will be my acquisition cost, and just need to specify the acquisition date. That for me would be the, excuse me, because I'm working on a demo environment. This doesn't have the current date, but I'm just going to say that this will be for today. So at this point, that is the information that NAB requires, because NAB already knows that this asset is the life cycle of this asset. Oh, excuse me, I need to correct the year. Let me see. Okay, sorry. This is because I'm working in a demo environment, which in here, my license actually allows me for the demo to work in the 2021 year, all right? So with this, what I just need to do is specify the basic information, and NAB knows how many years this asset will be depreciated and all the other information. Now, whenever I just acquire the asset, of course, I need to specify the following. This information will be coming to help me to generate the appropriate transaction. Do you want to specify a GL account? Do you want to specify a specific, excuse me, do you want to specify a vendor? So we generate your AP, or a bank account. So you want to use your own money at this time, right? So that's why this, let's say, wizard helps me. Okay, so this is the way we now work in Business Central. We just automate the processes for you. So I don't know, vendor or bank account will be, vendor is more complete because we generate AP and you can see more operations, all right? So we are saying that a vendor is selling me this. So we generate the AP information. Then we have a list of vendors that we have in NAB. So we just select any of them at this point. So this is Progressive Home Furnishing, who is selling me my car, all right? And the external document number, which happens to be the actual invoice, all right? So once we have the basic information specified to NAB, then I'm just going to click on next, and this is telling me, hey, that's it. The wizard is helping me, is going to help me to do every transaction. You don't have to post anything to your GL, will be automated. The information needed to post the acquisition is now ready in the fixed asset GL journal. So this is helping me to create my journals. Okay, let's take a look at what we're doing here. So this is very, 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 very useful. So whenever I just create this is telling me upon finish, open a fixed asset GL journal. So let's see it. I'm gonna click on check mark here on yes. And I'm gonna click here on this finish button. Oh, excuse me. I need to operate because I don't have budgets yet. I need to uncheck this, okay? Budget asset. So coming back, next. Next. Coming back to my information, I now want to open my journal. All right, let's see what did NAV created for me. Let's say, remember, you don't have to work with those complex transactions anymore. This anymore with fixed assets, which actually, what happens whenever you have 100 assets and you need to start depreciating, posting the acquisition costs and everything. So you can do this very, very easily now. So this generates actually a journal, a financial journal related to fixed assets, which we call the fixed asset GL journal. All right. So in one side, I'm going to be debiting my acquisition cost, and in the other one, with the specific vendor that I actually just declared. In my example, I'm going to be generating the AP transaction, balancing the purchase. All right, for minus 10,000 in this example. So my Opel can be then purchased, and this is acquisition cost, and this will be generating an invoice for me, and with the specific GL accounts required for the vendor and for the type of asset, which is a car in this case. This as well is a purchase with, well, this is just internal information. This is a domestic purchase with the miscellaneous type of transaction, all right? So these are different type of accounting setups that I have. So it's different when it's domestic or foreign purchases and so on. So we will need, if we are required to specify. But this is the general information, all right? So I'm going to, I don't know, post it.